It's night 12 in the game, and the Millennials arrive at camp after voting Nick out at their latest tribal council. In confessional, Lydia says that she feels relatively fine after voting out Nick. It was a unanimous vote, which means everyone is on the same page. Yesterday, she found the re-hidden immunity idol and told Omar about it, so now she needs to tell Rhea so that both of her inner Not Alliance members are aware that she has a powerful tool ahead of this swap. Lydia sits by Rhea and whispers to her that she feels good about their group of 5 here. Rhea nods and adds that she feels like she can trust Andy enough to stay tribe strong. Lydia then tells Rhea she also has something to fill her in on. She has the re-hidden idol from this camp. Rhea asks her if anyone else knows about it, and Lydia says she was only able to tell Omar before tribal council. So only the two of them know about it. In confessional, Rhea says she's glad Lydia told her about her idol because it shows they are still fairly close in the game. This is great because not only are Lydia and Omar tight with her, but she's also really tight with Kendi, which reduces the odds of the Millennials falling apart in the future. Right now, the best thing she can do is act as the glue for this tribe so they can all get to the merge. It's day 13, and both tribes arrive at the mats where Justin stands next to a table and bowl. Justin confirms that the Millennials voted out Nick last night, and Natalia immediately tells her tribe Christmas came early. Justin then lets everyone know that after 13 days of the Millennials versus Gen Z battle, it's time to finally switch things up and swap the tribes. Everyone then claps, and Justin confirms it'll be 2 new tribes of 8. If the scroll they pick up from this bowl is green, they will be on the new Millennials tribe. If blue, they will be on the new Gen Z tribe. Everyone then goes one at a time to the front to grab a scroll, and once everyone is ready, they find out their colors and either stay where they are or move to the other mat. Once everyone is settled, Justin goes through the 2 tribes. On the new Millennials tribe, we have Natalia, Rhea, and Omar as ex-Millennials, and then Henry, Casey, Bobby, Griff, and Christine as ex-Gen Z. As for the new Gen Z tribe, we have Andy, Lydia, and Kendi as ex-Millennials, and then Caitlin, Phil, Laura, Denisha, and Sam as ex-Gen Z. Justin then tells the 2 tribes to head back to their camps now, so they all begin making their way out. In confessional, Omar says one of the worst-case scenarios just occurred because he's on a tribe with 5 people he doesn't know and 1 person who doesn't even like him anymore. The only person he trusts is Rhea, and unfortunately the Millennials idol is with Lydia at the moment. It's going to take a lot of work to get into a decent position again. At the new Millennials camp, Omar welcomes the tribe to their new camp. Bobby says it doesn't look as bad as she imagined, though Natalia says the other camp looked way better. In confessional, Natalia says that this is the last place she wants to be at because screw anything related to her Millennials tribe. On the bright side, she's on a new tribe with one of her new MILF Z allies, Christine. Rhea then asks the Gen Z how they've handled the jungle so far, and Bobby says she started easing up to it a little bit lately. That storm on the first night killed her though. Omar says that the storm truly was awful. People were screaming and shit was flying into their faces. It sucked balls. Henry then asks if anyone wants to show all of them the well, so Omar and Rhea lead the way for them. At Gen Z, everyone arrives at their new camp and hug each other. Lydia then comments how friendly they all seem, and Laura points out that Gen Z thrives off of good energy. Hugs are necessary to keep up their good spirits. In confessional, Sam says that this swap has set her up beautifully because Gen Z has the numbers over the Millennials. Herself, Caitlin, Phil, and Laura are in an alliance, while Denisha is relatively loyal to the Gen Z tribe. It only leaves the 3 members they haven't met yet, and based on previous discussions with Natalia, it's clear these 3 are very tight. Lydia then introduces herself as a key cutter who followed into her family's footsteps. Andy then introduces himself as a club owner, so he has 0 experience in anything relating to outdoor survival. Caitlin scoffs and says she's the complete opposite. She loves anything that has to do with the outdoors. Sam says she too is very outdoorsy, and Phil mentions how he loved going camping when he was younger. In confessional, Andy admits he can't relate to any of these people. They are complete opposites of him. He's just a club owner who lives in an apartment building. It could get very difficult bonding with these new people, but he'll need to force himself if he wants to get out of danger early on. After some time of getting to know each other, Caitlin and Sam sneak off together and hug each other. Caitlin says she's glad she still has her here. She's hoping Bobby and Christine are going to be fine over there on the other tribe. Sam says they should be fine because of Bobby's idols. Though, it looks rough with Casey and Griff being there. In confessional, Sam says it's pretty good over here compared to the other tribe. Bobby and Christine have to deal with Casey and Griff, along with 3 millennials. Meanwhile over here, she has 3 Alliance members and then Denisha, who she has a deep personal connection to. Caitlin then says they should still speak to the millennials over here since she'd feel bad leaving them out of chats, but they shouldn't openly share any game information. Meanwhile at camp, Lydia and Laura chat about life, and Laura calls herself a Generation Z weirdo. She can come off very kooky, but she's generally easy to get along with. Lydia smiles and says she can tell she's very personable. Laura jokes how it must be her bald head giving off that energy, and Lydia admits it's definitely part of it. Laura then asks Lydia what people usually think of her when they meet her, and Lydia says she immediately comes off unamused because of her resting bitch face. Laura laughs and says she exuded that energy on those starter mats, but that's definitely not the case now that she's getting to know her better. In confessional, Laura says she's trying to hold open conversations with these new members because she loves to socialize. Not only that, but it helps her out in the game as well. She doesn't want a repeat of her old tribe days where people targeted her off the jump. In the wild, Kendi and Andy chat alone, and Kendi asks if he trusts him and Lydia at the moment. Andy says of course. He promised they'd stick together in the swap after the Nick vote. In confessional, Andy admits he has no plans on flipping against Lydia and Kendi since the millennials are becoming extinct. Plus, these Gen Z are thick as thieves, so they wouldn't allow him to join their crew that easily. Kendi then says they need to identify cracks today and tomorrow to give them enough time before the immunity challenge. Andy agrees and says there has to be something that could pry these Gen Z away from each other. In confessional, Kendi says he's going to use his social charm to the best of his ability these next few days so he can figure out what the Gen Z tribe is all about. There are a few people he's interested to talk to, so hopefully they open up to him. Kendi then starts off by speaking with Phil, and they talk about sports teams they like. In confessional, Kendi says he learned that Phil likes sports, so that's something they can talk about frequently as a way to grow closer to each other in this game. Kendi then talks with Caitlin and Sam, explaining how marriage really changed his life for the better. It cemented this hope inside of him that he can live a full life and not have to worry about finding the right person for him anymore. Caitlin wipes her eyes and says she finds that very inspiring. It's hard for her to talk about home because she misses her family and her boyfriend so much. Sam says it's tough because they haven't seen their families in weeks now, and they aren't even halfway into this game yet. In confessional, Caitlin says she loves having conversations with Kendi the most so far out of these 3 millennials. He's such a lovely guy and he doesn't mind opening up about his home life, which is exactly what she loves to talk about. Perhaps that will translate into her game plans moving forward, because the best thing you can do in this game is surround yourself with people you enjoy spending time with. Back on the Millennials tribe, Henry, Bobby, and Christine chat alone. Henry admits he's unsure how the dynamics will shape up over here, and Bobby says she's nervous. She doesn't know how Griff, Casey, and Natalia will move. In confessional, Christine says she needs to work really hard to keep Casey and Natalia on her side so that her alliance has the numbers on this tribe. She's basically the one person who has that close bond to those two, as Bobby and Henry haven't really socialized with those two ever since the Gabe blindside. Christine then lets the two know she's going to work her ass off these next few days to keep Casey and Natalia on their side. Bobby says they are relying on her a lot with those relationships, so no pressure. Christine smirks and says she can feel even more pressure after she said that. Meanwhile, Omar and Rhea sit with Natalia, and Omar asks Natalia what's preventing her from working with them. Natalia then squints and says she cannot believe this is even a conversation. In confessional, Natalia says she's rightfully pissed off at Rhea and Omar for voting her out back during their millennial days. Mind you, they did so twice. Once when voting out Renee, and the other is when they voted her out. Now they have the audacity to ask her why she's not working with them. Natalia then tells the two she can't blindly trust them after what they did to her on the old Millennials tribe. Repairing that trust will require a lot of time and effort. Omar then says they can start doing that now, but Natalia says they can't just snap their fingers and expect them to suddenly like each other again. Rhea then asks Natalia for forgiveness because they really need her, but Natalia shakes her head and says she needed them too in the past, but they threw her overboard. In confessional, Rhea says she's taking the desperate and submissive approach while talking to Natalia because she needs to feel more powerful in this situation. If Natalia feels like she has some power in this game, she is more likely to use them as numbers. Natalia then tells them that she needs to hold more conversations with people before determining what she'll do, and Omar says they appreciate her honesty. Christine and Casey chat, and Casey says he's really glad to be with her out of anyone from Gen Z. Christine smiles and says she feels like this swap will bring them closer and test their relationship to the next level. In confessional, Casey says he's glad the swap turned out the way it did because it opens up a lot of opportunities for him. For now, he'll stick by Christine, but there are new faces on this tribe that he can talk to and maybe for new close connections with. Casey then tells Christine he understands they haven't been able to be 100% with each other the whole time during their time on original Gen Z, but now is probably the best time to be 100% honest to each other. Christine agrees and says she feels like she can open up to him more now as they've been keeping in touch more often now. Griff later finds Rhea alone, so he approaches her and lets her know he immediately felt good energy from her once they arrived at this camp. Rhea scoffs and says she's honored, and in confessional, Griff says he immediately gravitated towards Rhea because she gave off mother energy. Like not just a mom type of mother, but like a mother. Since he hates his old tribe, he's going to spill as much as possible to Rhea and hopefully start this new game relationship with her. Griff then tells Rhea he is so glad to have some new faces here because he's ready to jump ship. Rhea then asks him what's going on, and Griff claims he was on the outs of his original tribe. They were one tribal council away from voting him out. That bald girl, Laura, is one of his biggest enemies, but she's on the other tribe right now. On this tribe, she needs to beware of Bobby, Christine, Henry, and Casey as they will likely stick together as a four. Rhea nods and asks about Natalia, and Griff says he is getting the sense that Natalia is eating up that Gen Z pudding, so she might stick to them for the time being. In confessional, Rhea says that she's learning a lot of good information from Griff, which is surprising to her. She thought Gen Z was all about loyalty, but clearly there were some evident cracks. She needs to use this information to her advantage and ensure herself and Omar stay safe on this new tribe. Christine and Natalia chat in the meantime, and Christine says she's glad they still have each other in this swap. Natalia asks her if she has any good connections with the old Gen Z, and Christine admits she has grown close to Henry, Bobby, and Casey. Therefore, they can remain as a strong five if she wants to get her revenge on the old Millennials. In confessional, Natalia says she feels like her closest connection right now is to Christine. Right now, she needs to figure out if she wants to target Omar and Rhea right off the bat or if she should remain on their good side. Christine seems like she's staying Gen Z strong, so perhaps Rhea and Omar aren't worth saving. Heck, they voted her out before, so she owes them nothing. Natalia then tells Christine she's ready to vote out those darn Millennials, and Christine laughs, claiming that she has become a true Gen Z now. It's night 13, and yet another big storm hits the jungle as rain showers from the sky and tough winds sway trees from side to side. At the Millennials tribe, everyone hides under the shelter trying to keep dry and warm. Suddenly, the shelter breaks apart and everyone begins to scream. Multiple people try to fix the damage done to it, but at this point, they are all drenched. It's the 14th day in the game now, and Henry, Omar, and Casey work on repairing the final bit of damage to their shelter. Bobby isn't far away as she stares into the distance, visibly upset. In confessional, Bobby says that last night was an extremely miserable experience for her and the entire tribe. Yet another giant storm hit the jungle, and it broke the shelter this time. Whoever built this shelter on the original Millennials tribe did a poor job. Christine then approaches Bobby and leans on her, and then Bobby cries into her hands. Christine tells her it's okay to cry, and Bobby says she hates being out here so much. She just wants to go home. Christine tells her she needs to keep fighting, but Bobby continues to cry. At the Gen Z tribe, everyone waits around as Sam finishes up making breakfast for everyone. Andy comments how rough the storm was last night, and Phil says he already knows Bobby was probably screaming all night over there at the other camp. Caitlin laughs and says she loves Bobby so much. She's so authentic. In confessional, Lydia says it's evident that Gen Z are extremely tight. They aren't even hiding how close they are. Caitlin loves Bobby. How funny is Phil about Bobby screaming at the other camp? It's going to take a whole sledgehammer to break up this bond the Gen Z have. Lydia then asks Andy if he wants to go for a walk, so he follows her out of camp. As they walk, Lydia tells Andy she's so sick of some of these people because they aren't hiding how comfortable they feel. It's unreal. Andy then says he knows how she feels, but they need to hide those feelings from them and keep on pretending like they love them. Lydia then stops walking and tells Andy she wants to share news with him. She has the idol from old Millennials. Andy says that's amazing, and Lydia says she's going to use it if they end up going to tribal council tomorrow. In confessional, Andy says he's really glad Lydia shared that she has an idol with her. It's showing him that their bond is getting better as time goes on. Perhaps she recognizes that two intelligent players need to stick together if they want to dominate this game. Lydia then says that if they had to take someone out with her idol, she's looking at taking out a leader-like figure. It has to be either Caitlin, Sam, or Phil. Andy agrees and says he feels like Caitlin and Sam are the ones running it over there. Phil seems like a follower. So does Denisha. He's unsure of Laura though. Lydia says she feels pretty good about Laura, though she might also just be a follower, at least for right now. In confessional, Lydia says she is preparing for a possible immunity loss tomorrow, so she needs to think about how she'll use her idol. She needs to extract enough information to where she can land the idol correctly and take out a huge figurehead for the Gen Z Alliance. Denisha and Sam chat alone later on, and Denisha asks if the other Gen Z are still good with each other. Sam says they are all solid as a 5 against the 3 Millennials. In confessional, Denisha says she feels extremely close to Sam at the moment, so she's using her as her main source of information. There haven't been that many signs of her ex-tribe wanting her out so far, as the discussions were always surrounding voting out Griff and Casey. Both of them are on the other tribe now, so she believes that the 5 Gen Z on this tribe truly are tight. Sam then tells Denisha she feels a bit scared of Lydia because she seems extremely cutthroat. Her face seems very cold all the time. Denisha says she didn't actually get that vibe at all, but if that's how she feels, she's justified in her own feelings. In confessional, Sam admits she feels a tad threatened by Lydia, especially after the long night spent with Natalia about the Millennials. Natalia has said a lot about those people, and Lydia was a main topic of discussion since she took charge of the fake double tribal and made sure Natalia would be voted out. That just shows her that Lydia is going to be a force to be reckoned with, especially if she makes it to the merge. It's day 15, and both tribes arrive to the challenge mats for the next immunity challenge. Justin asks the Gen Z tribe to return the immunity statue, so Phil hands it back. Justin then claims that immunity is back up for grabs. For today's challenge, everyone will be paired up and will need to hug each other on a small platform to stay up as long as possible. If even one member of a pair falls off, that entire pair is eliminated from this challenge. The last tribe remaining with at least one or more pairs standing on platforms will win immunity, safe from tribal council tonight. The losers will need to vote the 7th person out of this game tonight. Everyone is now paired up and on their platforms, which means this challenge is now on. On the Millennials, we have Rhea and Omar paired up, Christine and Natalia, Bobby and Henry, and Griff and Casey. As for Gen Z, Caitlin and Laura are paired, Phil and Andy are together, Kendi and Sam, and then Lydia and Denisha. Right off the gate, Bobby and Henry struggle to stay on for Millennials, while Phil and Andy and then Kendi and Sam also struggle. Griff meanwhile tells Casey he's stepping on his foot, so Casey apologizes and tries to readjust. However, he pushes Griff too much, which causes him to fall. Meanwhile, Sam and Kendi both drop, meaning both tribes are down to 3 pairs. Andy and Phil finally find a comfortable position, but Bobby and Henry continue to lose their balance. Natalia then tells Christine she's starting to feel a lot of pressure in her chest, so Christine tells her she's going to loosen up their hug a bit. 25 minutes have now passed in this challenge, and 6 pairs continue to fight in this challenge. Phil and Andy begin to dance around their platform again, while Bobby and Henry have had enough and have finally dropped. Natalia then tells Christine she's hugging her too tightly again, so Christine apologizes and loosens up her grip again. Natalia then tells her she's starting to fall now, so Christine tells her she doesn't know how to get her in a more comfortable position. Lydia and Denisha meanwhile start to sway from side to side as they start losing their balance, and then Denisha ends up falling off her platform. Phil and Andy then jump off next, meaning this challenge is down to just 3 pairs. 2 on the Millennials tribe, and 1 on the Gen Z tribe. Christine and Natalia once again start losing their balance, while Caitlin and Laura are completely solid on the other tribe. Rhea and Omar also seem in the zone, not moving or talking one bit. Natalia then tells Christine she's starting to fall, and then both Natalia and Christine fall to the ground together. This challenge is down to Rhea and Omar versus Caitlin and Laura as they fight for immunity for their respective tribes. Neither duo has moved an inch in this challenge. A lot of time passes by, and we're now at the 1 hour and 45-minute mark. Caitlin asks Laura if she's doing alright, and Laura bobs her head. Rhea and Omar meanwhile remain quiet, but Omar starts moving around for the first time in this challenge. Both pairs continue to stay strong for another 15 minutes, meaning they have reached the 2-hour mark. Caitlin and Laura remain very strong, while Omar continues to move around on his platform. Rhea then tells Omar he's pulling her towards him too much, but he tells her he's hurting a lot. Suddenly, both Rhea and Omar fall off their platform, which means Gen Z has won immunity, safe from tribal council tonight. Caitlin and Laura jump off and cheer together, while Omar and Rhea are extremely devastated at the loss. Back on the mats, Justin congratulates Gen Z on their immunity win, so Laura heads up and her whole tribe claps. Justin then confirms no one from Gen Z is going home tonight. As for the Millennials, they will see him tonight at Tribal Council where the 7th person will be voted out of Millennials versus Gen Z. With that, both tribes head back to camp, and in confessional, Omar says it's a tough pill to swallow knowing that he has to go to his first Tribal Council on this brand new tribe full of Gen Z. The obvious result tonight is that either himself or Rhea will go home, but hopefully more will unfold and they'll both make it out alive. Back at the Millennials camp, everyone returns from the challenge loss, and in confessional, Rhea admits she's very nervous about tonight because original Gen Z has the numbers. However, based on what she has heard from Griff's mouth lately, there could be some cracks that she can explore further and hopefully split that group apart. Omar and Rhea are away from camp, and Rhea tells Omar they will need to communicate with Griff and see how they can use him to their benefit. Omar asks what the approach should be, and Rhea says she doesn't know. They could maybe ask what he would like to do. Maybe they can even approach Natalia and see what she thinks about keeping them around. Omar then says he doesn't like their odds at survival if they have to rely on Natalia. There has to be a better solution. In confessional, Rhea says she needs to figure out who this vote is between so she isn't strategizing blindly. Her hope is that herself and Omar aren't in discussions for the vote, but that's far-fetched for sure. Hopefully there's a better vote out there that people are already thinking about. Meanwhile at camp, Casey tells the rest of the tribe that they now have an easy opportunity to come together as a six and vote out Rhea or Omar. In confessional, Natalia says that Rhea and Omar were dumb enough to go off on their own and leave everyone else at camp. Number 1 rule in this game is to never allow other people easy communication if you are on the bottom. Bobby then asks Natalia if she knows if one of those two have an idol or not, but Natalia says she isn't sure. The idol got played 2 rounds ago, but it could have been found again in the meantime. Henry then suggests that they all split the vote, so it's 3 on Rhea and 3 on Omar. In the re-vote, they take out Omar. In confessional, Griff says he isn't going to go through with this split vote plan. He wants to flip on the Gen Z after how they treated him on their old tribe. He was basically the tribe's ghost the entire time. It's time for them to become actual ghosts and get into their graves because their games are about to die. Christine then tells the group they can do girls on Rhea and boys on Omar to keep it simple, and everyone seems to agree to that idea. Later on, Griff talks to Rhea and Omar, letting them know the tribe is going to split the votes between both of them. Omar sighs and says it could be better off if they do because neither him or Rhea have an idol, and they just need one more vote to gain enough for a majority. Griff then says he feels like they need to vote out Casey since he's just a puppy dog and sheep to the Gen Z. Omar then asks why they don't just go for the head of the snake first, but Griff says that Casey is in fact the head of the snake. In confessional, Griff says he really doesn't like Casey in all honesty, so perhaps this vote is more of an emotional move. Either way, Casey will always be loyal to Gen Z, which is a problem, so he needs to go. Rhea then tells the two she can try working on Natalia's vote, and Griff says that this is probably their only approach at this rate. Nobody else would be willing to flip. Rhea then goes to chat with Natalia, asking her if she has anything of note to tell her. Natalia shrugs and says she knows nothing. No plan has been given to her yet. In confessional, Rhea says she knows Natalia is lying to her at this point, which scares her. Griff already confirmed the majority are splitting their votes, but since Natalia isn't admitting to it, it's clear she made up her mind. She's not going to work with the Millennials. Rhea then tells Natalia that she hopes she can get her help before tonight's vote, but Natalia says she honestly doesn't know how much help she can be at this point. Plus, she has proven to be a flip-flop all season, so there's not enough trust between the two of them. Rhea then says that's pretty harsh, and Natalia apologizes for stating the truth. In confessional, Natalia says she has no mercy and she's going to say it how it is. Rhea and Omar have been brutal to her before and she's not going to satisfy their needs anymore. One of them will be going home tonight, and it's going to be Omar. Bobby and Henry chat in the meantime, and Bobby says she hopes they aren't getting played tonight. Henry says he doubts anyone will screw them over except for maybe Griff. Even then, Rhea has 3 votes from the girls, so she'd still go home in that scenario. Bobby then says she feels like Casey is also very wonky, so maybe this split vote isn't smart for them. In confessional, Bobby says she knows these Survivor nerds love their split votes, but she doesn't see why they need it in a situation where there's so little trusted numbers to begin with. A failed split is bound to happen tonight, so she feels like they need to stack their votes on Omar instead. Bobby then tells Henry she low-key just wants to put all the votes onto Omar tonight. If Griff or Casey think they can mess up their split vote plan, an idol theoretically wouldn't need to be used on Omar because they'd think they have the numbers anyway. Henry then asks her if she thinks they should have all the girls on Omar in that case, and Bobby says it's better than risking a failed split vote. In confessional, Henry says he sees what Bobby is putting down. It's good to have other people chime in with their thoughts because it's hard to think from all angles as an individual. Bobby makes a lot of sense, so perhaps the best move tonight is to put all the votes onto Omar. Rhea later chats with Omar, letting him know Natalia isn't going to work with them tonight. It's confirmed based on their conversation since she's not opening up about this split vote. Omar then says they need to rethink their plan, but they have such limited options. Rhea sighs and says she doesn't know what to do except pray that Natalia comes back to them later this evening. Omar then says he feels like they might have to throw Griff under the bus if they plan to survive. In confessional, Omar says he knows Griff is an outsider from that Gen Z alliance, and he spilled everything to himself and Rhea about their motives and plans. Maybe it's best for himself and Rhea to spill all this information to that majority and have them reconsider who they vote out. Omar then tells Rhea he will try to make something work and drag Griff's name through the mud, and Rhea says it's worth a shot. Christine and Casey talk with each other, and Christine asks Casey if he thinks this split vote is a good idea. Casey says he thinks it is, even though Omar could technically offer more skills and challenges. Omar then joins in, asking if they can chat for a moment, and Christine says they have some time. Omar then tells them that he knows himself and Rhea are in danger tonight, which is obvious to begin with because of the original tribe divisions. However, they were actually tipped off by a certain member of their alliance about some sort of split vote plan being in the works. This certain individual is actively trying to flip this vote around to take out one of their own. He's talking about Griff. Casey's eyes light up and Omar adds that Griff told him it's girls on Rhea, boys on himself. Plus, Griff wants Casey out first. Casey laughs and apologizes for bursting out laughing, but he cannot contain himself right now. This is absolutely ridiculous. Christine then calls Griff weird, and Casey thanks Omar for this information. Omar then says that this could open up some sort of opportunity for them to work together, and he call rope Rhea into this too. At least for one round. They would appreciate it greatly. Their votes are fully up for grabs tonight. In confessional, Casey calls Griff a sneaky motherfucker for trying to target him tonight. Little does Griff know, he doesn't have the social finesse to convince other people to switch their votes. Maybe this is a sign that the Gen Z alliance needs to flip on Griff instead of voting out Omar and Rhea. After the conversation with Omar, Christine and Casey walk and talk. Casey says he can't keep Griff anymore after hearing all of what Omar said. Christine says she knows, but at the same time, this is such an easy play by Omar to get himself out of hot water. He knows now that he was the target tonight. Casey tells Christine he's not going to be happy if they don't switch this vote onto Griff. His own life is on the line here. Christine tells Casey it's not up to her what happens tonight. Henry, Bobby, and Natalia all have voices too. Casey then says that they should be looking out for every single alliance member, including himself. Griff is actively against him, which should be a concern for the alliance. In confessional, Christine says that she really wanted this vote to be on Omar, but Casey is playing a very emotional game and he wants Griff out tonight. She doesn't know what to do now because she could lose Casey if she doesn't go with his plan. Christine later chats with Henry alone, letting him know she and Casey were tipped off by Omar that Griff is fully flipping on Gen Z tonight. Apparently, Griff is targeting Casey, and that really upset Casey. Henry says he's not surprised. Bobby also clocked that earlier. She knew something was up with Griff. She suggested they just pour all the votes onto Omar tonight and abandon the split vote plan. Christine says that's a good option for them, but Casey really wants Griff out now. He doesn't want to do Omar anymore. If they don't follow through, they could lose Casey after tonight. She worked really hard for his loyalty, so throwing that whole relationship away will feel like a waste of time and effort. In confessional, Christine admits she's struggling with this vote, which sounds really ridiculous considering she's picking between saving a dumb player or going along with another dumb player's plan. However, the outcome of this vote could seriously impact her game going forward. If she loses Casey, she loses an important number for her on this tribe. If she keeps Omar and Rhea, those two could pull a lot of strings in the coming days and turn the Gen Z alliance against each other. Henry then tells Christine that if they want to vote out Griff, they need to inform Natalia and Bobby so they aren't left out of the loop. Christine sighs and says she doesn't know what they should do. Casey expects them to follow his lead on this one, but something is bothering her about it. It's night 15 in the game, and the new Millennials tribe sit down at tribal council. Justin welcomes them all, and he turns to Rhea first, asking her how life has been on the new Millennials tribe these last 3 days. Rhea says it has been quite interesting for herself and Omar. They have entered a tribe with 6 people who seemed very tight at first, so it was naturally going to be a struggle for them. Justin then asks her if that's still the case right now, and Rhea says it's looking very ugly for them still. These 6 are thick as thieves. Justin then turns to Bobby, asking her if she believes it's a 6 against 2 tonight, and Bobby says it might be. No guarantees. While Rhea and Omar keep calling their Gen Z tribe thick as thieves, there's more to it than they can see from their perspectives. Justin then asks Natalia if she learned anything about the Gen Z tribe during her stay back when she got kicked out of the Millennials tribe, and Natalia says she did. They thrive off of good energy and vibes. It's totally her thing now. Positivity truly does keep a group of people together. Casey then says he agrees with Natalia. Negativity gets you in trouble, and it has been proven already. Justin then asks Casey what he means by that, and Casey says that the Millennials were apparently negative towards Natalia, so they could be paying the consequences tonight. Natalia then speaks up and says she has felt very betrayed by all of the Millennials because they had a deal to stick together. Rhea then interrupts and asks Natalia why she's so pressed about that whole situation when she was the one to actively flip on Lydia. Everyone stuck to their word and voted for Andy, and then she's the one who listened to Jedson and turned on Lydia. Natalia says she still got a vote at that tribal council when Jed got out, so she was clearly the split vote plan. Omar then tells her that's ridiculous to say when Jed was the one who tried to vote her out. Natalia says she doesn't care at this point because they already betrayed her back when Renee got voted out. If they disagree, that's their opinion. Justin then asks Henry if all of this millennial drama means anything to the Gen Z, and Henry says he feels like it informs everyone what kind of players everyone is dealing with on that Millennials tribe. Clearly, they were a strong unit going into this swap, so that's a huge part of why Omar and Rhea are considered to be on the outs. Justin then asks Casey if he feels like this vote will strengthen the Gen Z alliance in that case, and Casey says he does. Once again, the negativity needs to go home tonight to keep this tribe strong. Justin then asks Griff if he agrees, and Griff gives a quiet nod. Justin then asks if they are all ready to vote in that case, and Henry stands up and says he has something to give to him first. Henry then heads to the front and hands over a scroll, claiming that he is using his immunity scroll tonight. As Henry sits down, Justin confirms that this is indeed valid, which means nobody can vote for Henry tonight. Everyone else is still fair game. With that, it's time to prepare for the vote.
I'll tally the votes. If anyone has a hidden immunity idol and they want to play it, now would be the time to do so. Alright, I'll read the votes. First vote, Griff. Griff. That's 2 votes, Griff. Casey. Rhea. That's 2 votes, Griff, 1 vote Casey, 1 vote Rhea. Griff. 3 votes, Griff, 1 vote Casey, 1 vote Rhea. Seventh person voted out of Survivor Millennials vs Gen Z. Griff.
Griff gets up out of his seat and Casey meanwhile tells Griff he really tried to play dirty and it blew up in his face. Rhea meanwhile holds her chest as she exhales, and Henry whispers to Casey to calm it down a bit. Griff then puts his torch down next to Justin and watches his torch get snuffed. He then makes his way out without a single word, and Omar thanks everyone for trusting his word tonight. Justin then tells the rest of the tribe to head back to camp, so they all start heading out. Next time on Millennials vs Gen Z, after Gen Z turned on Griff, the odds still look stacked against Omar and Rhea as the other 5 remain in a tight majority. However, how tight are those 5 in actuality now that Casey feels undervalued as an ally? Will paranoia surrounding Casey as an alliance member lead him down a similar path like Griff? Plus, on the Gen Z tribe, the original Millennials work hard to flip over Phil and Laura to their side. Will this work out for them in the end? Or will the original Millennials start thinking for themselves and eat one of their own? Find all of this out on the next episode. Griff's final thoughts. Griff isn't surprised that Omar and Rhea spilled everything to the Gen Z. They set themselves up for temporary safety, but now they are going to be in trouble the next tribal council they attend. Casey is such a bitchy person, so his words didn't affect him one bit when he got up for his torch. He's probably going home soon as well because nobody can deal with his attitude. Hopefully everyone ends up breaking a bone so nobody can win this game.